37,000 eggs, 422 volunteers, 4,602 guests, and at 5 locations and 1 helicopter drop. Yeah. At Gainesville, our Gainesville campus, if we did that in D.C., well, then there'd probably be 1 newspaper article as well. It's already been an epic weekend, but listen, we're just getting started. We're here to celebrate the most important fact of history, and that is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Welcome to all 7 of our campuses. If you're a guest, we're so excited that you're here, that you would spend this special weekend with us. We begin a new series, One Little Yes. In fact, why don't you just turn to your neighbor and say, one little yes. Very, very good. In 1983, a physics professor named Loren Whitehead published an article in the American Journal of Physics titled Domino Chain Reaction. Now, the domino effect, nothing new. But what Whitehead discovered is that a domino isn't just capable of knocking over a domino the same size as itself. What he discovered is that a domino can actually topple a domino that is 1.5 times its own size. So a 2-inch domino can knock over a 3-inch domino. A 3-inch domino can knock over a 4.5-inch domino. And I'm not real good at fractions, so we're going to stop right there. Now, here's the amazing part. By the time you get to the 18 domino, you could topple the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Of course, it's leaning, so that's cheating. The 21st domino, you could take down the Washington Monument, 555 feet. 23rd domino, the Eiffel Tower, 984 feet. And the 24th domino, you could take down the Empire State Building, 1,454 feet. I think you get the point. It's not just linear progression, it's geometric progression. Check this out. The gravitational potential energy of the 13th domino is 2 billion times greater than the energy that it took to knock over that first domino. So if you start with domino number 13, hey, good luck with that. It's not going to happen. But I don't know anybody who can't topple a 2-inch domino. A 2-year-old can do that, right? So don't despise the day of 2-inch dominoes. One little yes can change everything. Now, we're going to talk about saying yes to priorities. Next weekend, we'll talk about saying yes to the promises of God, yes to the prompting of the Holy Spirit. And each one of those yeses can change your life. But you know what? It really begins by saying yes to Jesus Christ. That's the game changer. It sets off a chain reaction that will change your life. Now, if you have a Bible this weekend, you can turn over to John chapter 11. We'll put it up on the screen for you here in just a moment. 23 years ago, I proposed to my wife. Now, I'll tell you how I did it, but first, just a little backstory. Before my father-in-law was my father-in-law, he was my pastor. And that just somehow was a little bit more intimidating because I wanted to do it the traditional way. I wanted to ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. And so I was a little nervous. But finally mustered up the courage and set up a little meeting. It was in his office at the church, and I worked on a little speech, and I delivered that speech to the absolute best of my ability. And at the very end of that speech, I asked him if I could marry his daughter, and I'm going to tell you what he said. He said, "Let me pray about it." Yeah, not exactly the answer I was looking for. In fact, one little yes right there would have been fantastic. So he prayed about it and then forgot about it. A week later, A week later, I'm wondering what's going on. And I'll tell you something. We just celebrated Holy Week, right? No. That was my Holy Week. That will put the fear of God in you when you know that your hopefully future father-in-law is praying about it. And I just want to give a shout out right now to my mother-in-law. She is out at our Gainesville campus, and she at some point mentioned to my father-in-law that maybe he had to double back with me. And so, Mom, thanks for that. All right, back to the proposal. So I took Laura on a date downtown Chicago, and we went to Lowry's Prime Rib. All they serve is prime rib. You know it's going to be good if that's the only thing on the menu. And it was. And I thought to myself, I got a chance at a yes here tonight, that this proposal could happen. It's off to a good start. And so then we went and took a little boat cruise on Lake Michigan as the sun set. And then the city lights came on, the beautiful skyline from Lake Michigan. And I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a 3-carat diamond. No, I did not pull out a 3-carat diamond. Not on a minimum wage quick fill gas station salary that I was pulling in back in the day. But despite its size, color, and clarity, Laura said yes. I want to tell you something. That one little yes changed my life. I'm so grateful. Love my wife. We're celebrating our 23rd anniversary. I mentioned we're from Chicago. I call it the Michael Jordan anniversary, number 23. It's a big one. It's a big one. You know what? That 2-inch domino, that one little yes, set off a path in our lives that would change everything. And then, not to say the least, we then have like 3 dominoes named Parker, Summer, and Josiah. And, as they begin their chain reaction. Here's my point. This is huge. I'm so excited about this series. By the way, we have a little booklet for you on the way out, gift from us to you, called One Little Yes. But the next 4 weeks could change your life. And so why don't we go ahead and start right here at John chapter 11, verse number 17. Now, on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. The significance of this is it sure seems like Jesus is a day late, $1 short. His friend, good friend Lazarus, died 4 days before. You would think he could have gotten there in time to help him, to maybe save him. But Oswald Chambers once said that sometimes it looks like God is missing the mark because we're too short-sighted to see what he's aiming for. Verse 18, now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. Just a little commentary. Sure seems like Martha's getting a little passive-aggressive here. If you had been here, in other words, you could have kept this from happening. Not blaming you, but I am, but I'm not, but I am. But it's this next statement that is so amazing. One of my favorite phrases in Scripture. But I know that even now, even 4 days after a funeral, God will give you whatever you ask. This is amazing because it sure seems like she's holding out hope 4 days after the funeral. Now, I know that there are people who would say, well, isn't it time to get on with your grieving? Like, is she in a little bit of denial and not the river in Egypt? If it's funny to me, I'll say it. Listen, there are going to be times in your life, listen to me, where it seems like you're out of touch with reality, but it's because you have something called faith. And faith is in touch with a reality that is far greater than anything you can taste or see or hear or smell or touch. See, I think Martha is holding on to something here. Listen, doubt is putting your circumstances between you and God. Faith is putting God between you and your circumstances. Verse 23, Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he'll rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though he dies. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Here it is. Yes. Yes, Lord, she replied. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who has come into the world. Perhaps the shortest profession of faith in the Bible. Yes, Lord. And that one yes changes everything. And verse number 43, then Jesus called out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and his feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. And Jesus said, take off the grave clothes and let him go. Not preached on the 7 miracles a time or two, written a book on the 7 miracles. Love these 7 miracles in John's gospel. This is the grim reaper versus the grave robber. This is Jesus stealing back what the enemy has stolen. It says, Lazarus come forth, Lazarus died. Listen, I was at the tomb of Lazarus a year ago. I'm happy to report he's not there. He's not there. In fact, historians say that he went on to live another 30 years. Amazing miracle. But that's not what I want to talk about this weekend. Along with the 7 miracles, Jesus 7 times says something to the effect, I am. In this case, the resurrection and the life. Now, we don't have time to look at all of them, but I'm up here this weekend saying you ought to say yes to Christ. And I think you ought to know what you're saying yes to. And so, we have a lot of different ways to identify ourselves, right? Different identifiers. You can use occupation. We use that one a lot. I'm a pastor. I'm an author. You can use a hobby. Maybe you're a runner or a musician. Sometimes we'll use physical characteristics, 6'3", or blonde, have blue eyes. Listen, you can use personality type if you want to. I'm an ENFP. You could base it on where you're from. I'm from the Midwest. And there are 100 other ways for you to identify yourself. I'm an alcoholic, I'm a Christian, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, yea, even an independent. Jesus self-identifies a little differently. The very first I am statement, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Now, he had just fed 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. You see, in God's kingdom, 5 plus 2 does not equal 7. It equals 5,000 remainder 12. There's more left over than what he started with. That's our God. That's what he does. That's who he is. And right after performing this miracle, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Now, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do this or not, but I'm going to do it anyways. Let me insert a little word right here. I am the homemade bread of life. Now, that's what I'm talking about right there. Changes it, doesn't it? Homemade bread. When I was a kid, our family got a bread maker. Now, that's a gift that keeps on giving. I remember the smell of bread filling our single story small ranch home like artificial fog in an 80s music video. The smell was so thick you wanted to just butter the air and eat it. Now you got to eat it when it's hot, right? Good stewardship. Slap the butter on, get it into the crevices, seeps through the other side, stains your shirt. I don't care what kind of bread it is, white or wheat, zucchini bread, banana bread, apple streusel bread, or my personal favorite, monkey bread. Not really sure it belongs in the bread family. Glad it is. I am the homemade bread of life. He that cometh to me will never hunger again. I want to tell you something. You have an eternal appetite that cannot be satisfied by material things. There's a creator who has plans and purposes for you, and only in a relationship with him can you actually find what you're looking for. Now, bread was so central to their way of life. It was the source of sustenance. I mean, come on, it's even in the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. Bread was right at the heart of things. And then you have the Israelites who for 40 years in the wilderness lived on manna, this bread from heaven. I think Jesus is saying on the manna, on the miracle that every single day, his mercies are new every morning. Never hunger again. On Good Friday, Laura and I went to the wake of Charlotte Hall, 94 years old, when she passed, preached right up until the end, was the co-founder of the People's Church, the church that we purchased right here on Capitol Hill, and amazing, amazing woman. Pastor Michael Hall, my friend, said that his mother had read the Bible 52 times from cover to cover. Now, next to the casket, there was just I don't know how to describe it, almost like a display with just some mementos, some artifacts from her life, including one of the Bibles I went through. I like seeing what people underlined. I like seeing what people wrote in the margins. That was pretty powerful to see that. There was a cane and a walker and a wheelchair, and each one had a sign taped on them. And it said, won't need this anymore. Come on. Come on. And then a little bottle of water. I can't remember exactly what it said, but something to the effect, I'll never thirst anymore. Not anymore. Listen, Jesus said, I am the bread of life. You can't satisfy your spiritual hunger in any other way but a relationship with the one who created you. In fact, the one who died for you on the cross. C.S. Lewis said it this way: we're half-hearted creatures fooling around with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered to us. We are far too easily pleased. In John 8:12, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. Another powerful statement. Now in Genesis 1, God says, let there be light. According to the Doppler effect, those words are still creating galaxies at the outer edges of the universe. 4 words. Now, after our One Little Yes series, tip my hand a little bit, we have another series coming at you called A Trip Around the Sun. Now that is also the title of a book that I wrote with my 74-year-old friend and spiritual father, Dick Foth. And it's really a book about adventure, choose adventure. And we share some life lessons, but in that book, and by the way, Laura and I are going to give you a copy first week of May. Mark your calendar, be here. Foth shares about a friend of his when he was pastoring in the 60s in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, University of Illinois. A professor walked in one day, world-renowned spectroscopist named Dr. Howard Malmstat. And they struck up a friendship. And one day in the car, and by the way, spectroscopists, scientists who studies light essentially, one day, Foth thought, you know what, I'm going to ask him the question. Why do you think the very first thing God says in Genesis is, let there be light? Well, Howard said, well, it's one of the foundations of the universe. The speed of light is the constant in Einstein's general theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. He said the basic unit of measurement for distance is the wavelength. So contractors who build roads use light, use laser transits. He said every element on the chart of elements that we study in high school absorbs or fluoresces light at a different rate. Each element is instantly recognizable. If cadmium is hit with light, it emits what is called the cadmium red line, which happens to be the basis for the atomic clock. In other words, what Howard Malmstat, who maybe knew as much or more about light than about anybody on the planet 50 years ago, said that basically light is the foundation of everything. So when God said, let there be light, maybe, just maybe, this is what he was saying. Let there be electromagnetic radiation with varying wavelengths traveling at a speed of 186,000 miles per second. Let there be ultraviolet and infrared light. Let there be radio waves and microwaves. Let there be x-rays. Let there be chopped salads and In-N-Out burgers. Let there be vitamin D and light therapy. Let there be purple and pink sunsets. Let there be the aurora borealis and rainbows after it rains. Let there be Crayola crayons. Let there be television. Let there be cell phones. Let there be green eggs and ham. Just do that. All of it a function of light. And Jesus says, I am the light of the world. How does someone say that? Well, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and all things were made by Him, and without Him nothing was made that has been made. In Him was life, and that life was the light of men. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I don't have time for this one. John 10:5, I am the door. But I'll tell you this, He's standing at the door and knocking. By the way, in 1851, William Holman Hunt painted a famous picture called The Light of the World. It's a depiction of Revelation 3:20, which says, I stand at the door and knock, and if anyone would open that door, I would come in and sup with him and he with me. By the way, in that painting, he explained it 50 years later, there's no door handle on the outside. He's not going to knock down the door. He's waiting for your one little yes. He's waiting for you to invite Him into your life. Let me do one more. The Lord is my shepherd. John 10:9. Before becoming a professor at the University of Illinois, Howard Malmstat was in the Navy. In the final year of World War II, he was stationed on a destroyer that was part of a picket line off the coast of Japan. Now, they were under constant threat of kamikaze attack. The tension, pretty unimaginable. After 72 straight hours at his battle station, finally, Howard Malmstat got a break. He laid down on his bunk, totally exhausted, and that's when he heard a voice outside his porthole. And the voice was reciting, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And went on with all of Psalm 23. Well, Howard Malmstat got up, looked out, and there was no one there. Now listen, I understand that you could say, 72 hours at a battle station, possibly a hallucination, I don't know. But this scientist didn't think so. He believed it was the voice of God. And it was the defining moment of his life, a turning point, a tipping point, when he understood that God himself was his shepherd. I want you to know something. You can run from God, but you can't hide. You can run your entire life. And you know what? When you turn your back on God, often it feels like God is a million miles away. Is that not true? But have you ever turned around and just been totally shocked because someone was right behind you? One of those moments. I promise you this. If you turn around, if you turn towards God, it's going to be like, whoa, because he's right here. He is right here. Smile on his face, your heavenly Father. Arms wide open, ready to embrace you. I want to be careful with this, but earlier this week, I was down in Fredericksburg and took a little pit stop at Starbucks. And I was just sitting there drinking a caramel macchiato. And it's hard to explain, but had this most powerful impression. And I want to share it because I think it's for someone who's here this weekend. Now, this might sound out there. I mean, I hope it's not like eerie organ music playing in your brain right now. But I felt like the Heavenly Father said that there are people this weekend that have run from God for a long time. And the prayers of your parents and your grandparents are going to catch up and overtake you this weekend. As you finally turn to the Lord that they knew that they prayed to. You know what? If they're still living, you say yes to Christ, they ought to be the first person that you call this weekend. Because you know what? By their prayers, they tipped over a domino. And that domino caught up with you this weekend. Close with this, John chapter 11. I'm the bread of life, the light of the world. I'm the good shepherd. And finally, in John 11, I'm the resurrection and the life. Now, this is quite a claim. This is the kind of claim you better back up, and I'm not talking about the cloud. Work hard on this stuff. Make sure you catch that. It's like Joe Namath before Super Bowl III. I guarantee it. Oh, and then he went out and won the MVP, right? You better back it up. If you're going to throw down, I am the resurrection and the life, you better back that up. And that's exactly what he does. Not just by saying, Lazarus, come forth, but after his own crucifixion on the third day, Jesus walked out of the tomb. And I want to tell you something. If Jesus walked out of that tomb, the word impossible is removed from our vocabulary. It changes everything. And I want to tell you, it's not something we celebrate one day a year. It's something we celebrate every day in every way. God is in the resurrection business. He resurrects dreams. He resurrects relationships. You know what? There are parts of your personality that have just been battered out of you that he can resurrect. Why? Because he's the one who created you in the first place. He says, I am the resurrection and the life, a bold claim, and he follows it with a bold promise. He that believes in me will live even though he dies. And then he asks Martha a point-blank question. I'm going to ask the same point-blank question this weekend. Do you believe this? Do you believe this? Martha says, yes. And one little yes changes everything. Romans 10:9 says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. Have you made a profession of faith? Have you said yes to Jesus Christ? One footnote, and I'm done. When I say yes to something, I want to know exactly what I'm saying yes to. You know what I mean? I don't want to say yes to the subscription if I have to cancel it. Because then I'm going to be a subscriber for life. It's not going to happen. I don't want the free phone if it means the 20-year plan, right? I'm going to tell you what you're saying yes to. You're saying yes to the bread of life. You're saying yes to the light of the world. You're saying yes to the Good Shepherd. You're saying yes to the resurrection and the life. And just to make sure that there are no uncertain terms, 2 Corinthians 5:21 says that God made him who had no sin to become sin for us so that we might become the righteousness of God. Let me translate that, because here's the deal that's on the table. This is the gospel. It's almost like God says, let's strike a deal. Why don't you, and I'll put it in financial terms, why don't you take all of your sin debt, why don't you go ahead and just transfer that on over to my account, and I'll pay it off. In fact, why don't we just pay it in full? Not a loan, grant, a gift. But that's just half the gospel. Because then he says, and then why don't I take all of my righteousness, everything I've done right, why don't we go ahead, we'll just transfer that on over to your account, and we'll call it even. That I can say yes to. That's the gospel. One little yes. Let's pray. Father, help us this weekend to not just be hearers of the word, but to be doers of it. Lord, I pray for every single person at all 7 campuses, even the people that couldn't find a place to sit, but they're here anyways. And God, I pray that right now they would have an encounter with the resurrected Christ. If you're here this weekend at all of our campuses, just even with your head bowed, your eyes closed, I just want to ask a question. If you'd like to say yes to Jesus Christ, I'm going to ask you to do something. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to ask you to put your hand up and take it back down just so that I can pray for you. And I think it's a way of saying, you know what? I want to knock over that first 2-inch domino and begin a relationship with God. If that's you this weekend at all of our campuses, would you just kind of hold your hand up high like this? And I just want to see it. I want to see where you're at, and just know that I can pray for you. Listen, lots of hands raised, I can't see them all, but you know what? God sees those hands. You can take them back down. I want to pray for you right now. And if you'd like, you can pray this prayer with me. You don't have to pray it out loud, but you can pray it in your heart. Lord Jesus, I'm a sinner in need of a Savior. And today, I surrender my life to your Lordship. I thank you that you love me. I thank you that you went to the cross to pay the penalty for my sin. And I thank you that on the 3rd day, you walked out of that tomb. I thank you that I have an eternity to look forward to because of what you have done for me. And so I make my profession of faith. Yes, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.